Hey, what's going on, comic fan? Mitch, your boy, the bearded comic bro, and I am here with my brother, comic collective, Boof.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Boof here, part of the IG comic family, teaming up with Bearded Comic Bro and trying to bring you a little entertainment in this unique situation our world is in. So we're here to entertain, we're here to inform, and we have a pretty decent topic today. I'm sure you're a lot of familiar with. We're going to be talking one-shots. You know, what is a one-shot? Does it follow a set rule of guidelines? You know, I'm sure you all have them in your collection. You ever bought a collection, you probably have tons of them. Some are must-haves, some are keys, some are just a bunch of nonsense that just had to get published, right? So
Right.
we're going to show off a few books, couple, favorites of ours, some talking points, and we're just going to wing it. And we might even be enjoying a little craft beer today, too.
Speaking of which, I see you have something sitting there on the table saying, what are you drinking today?
Yes, sir. I actually, you and I spoke about this recently. This is Flying Embers, the new hard, low-carb kombucha. It's a really nice balance between an adult beverage and, kind of that, new fitness and low-carb, movement. My wife and I have been following it for a while. She discovered this. This is their pineapple chili. It's got a really nice punch of habanero, that sweetness of the pineapple. So, you know what? I'm getting a little parched already. I should probably
Absolutely. After we talked about it, I went and picked up the grapefruit one, and I'll have to say it is quite tasty. So that sounds right up my alley, though. That one you're talking. So, real quick, gang. If you guys hear some steps or baby crying, hey, we're all in this quarantine together, so that's just my fam upstairs getting ready for nap time, hopefully soon. But to help this conversation go further and better, I'm busting out an Urban Artifact. I've been getting really into these. It's a brewery here in Cincinnati, and it is their peanut butter banana jelly. And holy buckets, it is fantastic. You are drinking my wife said it's like you're having a peanut butter jelly sandwich with just a little hint of sour.
Nice.
So if you like sour beers, this is where it's at. So I'm always one that I'm like, I've got to at least just try it. But it's what you think. So if you don't like peanut butter jelly sandwiches, you had no childhood.
Right, absolutely.
So we got crafts. Let's talk some comics.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks, son. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me Obi-Wan. Act like you know me.
Awesome. All right. So, Bearded Comic Bro, what is a one-shot? To you, at least.
So to me, for me, I would just say it's a solo issue. Now, I'm trying to figure out that myself of, do we consider annuals one-shots? What about one-shots of if it's themed in? So, for example, I don't know, like if you want to go mid-90s, we're talking, would you consider the Amalgam series, any of those one-shots because they're solo issues?
I would.
I don't know. So I think for me, a one-shot is if it's a contained story that if you can read it without having to read anything else, that's what I would consider a one-shot. So from my stance.
Could it lead into another story, though? Could it be the setup for a larger crossover, i.e. XMen Alpha? It started the Age of Apocalypse. It was, in fact, a self-contained story because you saw the new incarnations of the characters. You saw the world that was now because Xavier died. You could stop right there and you would have an idea of what went on, but then all the other X-Men titles changed for a period of 4 months. So it led into it, but you could stop right there. And I feel it was a one-shot, yet it was Alpha. So there was Omega. It wasn't a number in a series, but they were bookends with a story in between. I still consider it a one-shot. It was one and done. There was never another XMen Alpha published.
Yeah, I think you can have those tie-ins. because honestly, I think especially in this day and age where comics are going, I don't think you'll have very many one shots that don't tie in still to something going on.
Agreed.
You had the Year of the Villain going on, and those were all, they had self-contained stories of the villains like Black Mask, Riddler, all of those, and they don't ever they never really into the main storyline, but they brought in some pieces of it, and if you read it, you knew what was going on, and it was a self-contained story. So I don't know if you're going to get too many that don't have some connection to something greater nowadays.
Absolutely. And speaking of that Riddler, I'm wondering if that's going to become a hot key all of a sudden, because hopefully not a spoiler for anyone who didn't read it, but at the end, he quits because Lex calls him out for, always failing. You leave these clues, you want Batman to figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden he's not the Riddler now.
Right. And I don't know. I think it could be fun, and especially if it sounds like they're integrating whenever they start production back up of the Riddler into the movie universe.
Yeah, the Batman.
That's could pick up and things like that. I'll tell you what I do like though is man, Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Absolutely ridiculous. Except I don't know, that white suit was a
little
crazy,
too much, but man, that was my first ever Batman movie live action.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so it holds a special place in my heart no matter what. Because when Batman Returns came out, my mom's like, "Oh, it's a little too dark for you."
I get it. I can see a responsible parent being that way. You and I probably will make the same moves when, our kids are going to be old enough to see Marvel movies when like Phase 7 is out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, my mom started that way. She then relaxed really quick on it when she's like, "Ooh, I need a person to go to the movie with me." And she would just take me to R-rated movies. And
nice. Okay. I can dig it.
Don't talk like that. And that was her basis. So nice. Yeah, I mean, so I think one shots, I think they tie into a lot of stuff, but I definitely would say they're self-contained stories for sure.
So what about the one shots that aren't even, I'll say, a traditional comic at all? And I got a couple of good examples. I'll you know what? I'll give two examples, and I picked these out specifically for you, being you're such a huge Batman fan.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we have not talked about any of the books that we're talking about. So
this is just off the cuff. So I've got
Let's Go.
Batman: The 10-Cent Adventure.
That's in my read pile. I kid you not. I just picked that up at for $1.
You picked it. What a crazy price inflation from 10 cents cover price. Right? But I mean, this starts off Bruce Wayne murderer, and this is Ed Brubaker making his mark on the Batman franchise. Scott McDaniel did a lot of the pencils. He did it in this issue, but this was his era on Batman too. But this is a one shot that leads into Bruce Wayne murderer.
Yeah. Wow.
Wait a second. And I'm sorry, I may have misspoken. It's Bruce Wayne murderer, then Batman fugitive, I think. There's two different parts to it. It's a pretty long story. It ran for like a couple of years.
It's a great question. If you guys are watching this video, by all means, comment in the sections below. Let us know. We're just talking comics, so if we mess up on something here, by all means, let us know, and we'll talk and figure it out too. So.
Absolutely. And I obviously misspoke already. Greg Rucka, right on the cover.
Okay.
And the man can really play the long game. He did so on Lazarus. So if that's something that you guys haven't read, absolutely pick up like that big first hardcover. Collects a good run of the series. Lazarus and Greg Rucka's Punisher. Amazing runs by that writer.
Yeah, obviously you know me. I'm a big Batman fan. So Comic Fam, if you didn't know that, that's why he pulled that from me. When I was a kid, my mom said my first words were Batman. So it's built into the blood. Let me ask you this question, Booth. What about in a series, a comic that is in a series run, it's a part of the number count, but really is a standalone story?
You know what? I actually have, I almost pulled a couple of these out. The first thing that comes to my mind, What If?
Oh, okay.
Yep. Series, sequentially numbered. with the rare exception of a 2-part story, everyone is a separate self-contained story of a different reality, once and done in that. So
Right.
it's tough, but do you have that sequential numbering? Are they still one-shots, or do you term it differently? Is it a one-off or something like
Right.
that?
And it is a because what came to my mind is and I'm pulling it up because this was one of digital for me, was did you read the Hawkeye Matt Fraction series at all?
Absolutely. It was
Pizza Dog,
that
right?
series is like different than anything else out there. It was funny. It was ridiculous at times. Who would have thought that people would love pizza dogs, and that because boomerangs would be just a common phrase you hear someone throw out at a convention?
Yeah. Like, I mean, that Pizza Dog, that issue well, because he gets introduced obviously in the first issue of the run, but I think that's issue 11. And it goes into its own storyline there, and it's a self-contained story. Now, it's not your traditional one shot like we talked about, but that's where I was talking. Could there be where do those fit into the case, like you said, or the what ifs, where it's it's in a part of a universe, part of a series, but they're not, and then necessarily every issue is a different.
It's a once and done, almost like TV. I don't know if anyone out there, are you a fan of Supernatural? When they started the series off, it was like Freak of the Week. You hit that monster for the week, you solve the mystery. Same with Scooby-Doo. But it was a part of a recurring series. Maybe it connects together. So maybe, stories, a story can be a one-shot, but not necessarily the comic itself. That issue may not fit the standard definition of a one-shot. The story is, because you can pick that up as a casual reader. Hey, that's a great story. Pick up the Pizza Dog Hawkeye issue.
Yeah.
And you're good. You don't have any commitment to buy every month to figure out what else is going on.
You can just get that issue and be set. Did Supernatural actually get into a storyline? I've not. That's one show I never got into. Did they find their footing, or did they stick with that model?
Oh, no. They expanded it. Monsters and Supernatural, and then Heaven and Hell. I think they're going into their 15th and final season now. So yeah, they found.
I feel like that was the CW's model, because that's the CW one, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's Smallville started out that same way, right? The first season is
exactly
a different freak of the week, a different person that had been hit by the kryptonite and affected them, and then they
just got bigger into the Superman mythos from there.
Yeah. So, well, you saw you digging. What you got next?
Well, I got some more Batman, of course, because you are Mr. Batman. So here's a comic that's not a traditional comic.
Okay.
It's a gallery book.
Oh.
So I love alternate timelines, what ifs, Elseworlds, like that is my jam. So here we've got the Batman Elseworlds gallery, the Night Gallery, K for night. It's obviously very Batman themed.
Yeah.
But this is just pinups. Let's see, I'll tell you. The Night Gallery, the design journal of Bruce Wayne. And it just goes into all these different iterations, different sketches of Batman. And for anyone with a keen eye, the coloring's wrong, but this kind of looks like Thomas Wayne from, alternate timeline. That is, especially the red eyes. I mean, the costume's a little lighter and no guns. Just some really cool alternate timeline Batman sketches. Bunch of different talents in here too.
You took me back to Batman Forever right there, showing up that close-up of the butt shot there.
Absolutely. I mean,
Joel Schumacher through and through.
Looks like he's, all shredded out in here. Obviously, a very violent alternate timeline. There's a couple of Robins in here. The Robins aren't as cool, but, kind of looks like Tim Drake is the basis of all the character designs here. And it's just, I mean, this is clearly not a traditional comic book. There's commentary. There's no story. Some really sick all Batmobile designs. Like, I'd love to see that on camera. Like, that's just very cool looking. But this is not, it's a comic book, certainly. It's not a traditional comic book. It doesn't tell a story. It relays concepts. But it's certainly a one-shot. Doesn't say it anywhere on there. But this absolutely meets the definition of a one-shot because it is not tied to anything else. I've never seen these characters in a book. There's no reference to it. It's, kind of like like a Punisher War Journal almost. There's commentary in it, but that's it. And I'll just bust out all my Batman stuff now and make sure I hype you up. The Dark Knight Gallery. It's just like an A-list creators. I'd love to be able to take this into the convention circuit and get it signed by everyone.
So is that just different artists kind of on each page?
Exactly correct. And it actually opens up with my favorite Batman artist, Kelly Jones.
Ooh.
Kelly Jones' Batman art is like nothing else. Like he really leans on like that horror vibe. And when Batman teams up with like the Spectre or Deadman, like that's when he really hits a home run.
Because those were the late 500, early 600 run kind of Kelly Jones?
Okay. Absolutely. And really went nuts with the covers. That's when I think people started noticing during Nightfall. That's when his stuff really gained some attention. I mean, he did that famous cover of Bane breaking Batman's back.
Yep. And then I think he started traditional. Correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at that graphic, he was the one that then his covers got to be more where the bat ears got longer.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Horror vibe. So I think he kind of started traditional, and then as they gave him more freedom, I'm assuming, to just say, hey, run with it.
Absolutely. He really took that to an extreme in the Batman Dracula Red Rain series. The trilogy of Elseworlds. I don't know if you ever read it.
I have not dug into that one yet.
Must read. Let's see. Batman Dracula Red Rain, Crimson Mist, and Bloodstorm. If that may be the order. Entirely drawn by Kelly Jones. Batman becomes a vampire. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
And he did another one, Dark Joker, The Wild, just fantasy, sword and sorcery, but Joker centric. Kelly Jones, I cannot get enough of the guy. He's awesome.
That's great. Well, let me jump in then real quick since we're on the Batman theme. And this can also then maybe bridge us into another topic, part of where we kind of hit it at the beginning. Thoughts on annuals.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on annuals here then real quick? Because I'm about to pull one.
Okay, well, I think it's case by case basis. Like I almost grabbed one today, but I already have a ton of books here.
Right.
Like when DC did that summer of year one annuals, the series was existing. It might be like Superman Annual 4, and it's just year one. So it's clearly a sequential number, but it's a once and done story. The book that I was going to grab is Doomsday Annual 1. There's never a Doomsday series. It's a once and done. It tells his origin, and that's it. So that particular one, absolutely a one shot, and I think many more would qualify.
So I'm pulling out. We've mentioned it some of it already, but I mean, this was a wheelhouse for a kid in 1994. What do you think? What is more epic than Batman? And what else do kids love? Pirates.
Oh, the Elseworlds.
So we're talking Pirate Batman. Let's go.
Oh, these were amazing. Absolutely. Like this whole run had some sick covers. Like I remember Mike Mignola did a bunch of covers like on the Batman and the Superman books. There was a great Catwoman annual that was also like back in medieval times.
Yep. And what I love is, so, I mean, it is your token. And I could be wrong, but I don't think they ever did anything outside of the Batman using it in the pirate world besides this. But what I love is they changed the names on some. And then others, they kept they kept it. Joker is just Joker in here.
Yep.
Robin is Robin, but he's think Robin Redbird.
Yep.
Then Alfred's Alfredo.
Yep.
Let's just tweak it just a little bit. Batman's Leatherwing is what they call him. And then Catwoman. Did you read this?
I did, but a long time ago. I don't own it. I don't even remember.
It's something like Capitana Filina or something just
very okay.
And they gave Joker a nose ring, and he's the Joker character in here is about the closest thing I think you get to a comic version of Dustin Hoffman from Hook.
Oh wow, he's got some Evil Ernie vibes in that too.
Yeah. And so it was just, I mean, it's a standalone story. I loved it. Right? Oh, Robin Redblade, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, who would have thought that Batman rocking a hoop earring would be as dope as that is.
Absolutely, yeah. And they knew what they were working with. It had to be a little bit ridiculous because I mean that's what comics were in the 90s.
Yeah. And I
And
think
then the
that's
year after, do you remember they did Legends of the Dead Earth, which
yeah.
I don't know what the basis of it was, but it was pretty much like, let's do Elseworlds again. We can't call it Elseworlds, so we're going to do this thing where it's a little bit of a further stretch, maybe doesn't have the same characters, but the idea, like that kind of legacy hero thing.
It's I think it's great. So and it's a self-contained story. Elseworlds had its kind of own brand of, you knew it was their way of saying, hey, it's in continuity, no, not in continuity, and we can just kind of go buck wild. But it's still, again, that's an annual, and it's an Elseworld annual, so it's
Right.
a little different from. That's why where you said it depends on the annual, probably, because I think now these annuals that are coming out, and you get 2 or 3 annuals a year now if you're in a series.
Absolutely.
If it's
And some of them come back to those, stories, because like back in the day, annuals were events. Like specifically, I remember Marvel. Like my favorite annual event, Atlantis Attacks. Started out in Silver Surfer, ended in Fantastic Four. Those were not one shots. I don't feel it was the story all linked together purposely. It actually told you this is Atlantis Attacks Part 1. Those were events, the Evolutionary War. But these days, it's like the 2020 special, annual. I don't even know if everyone's using the term anymore. Some people used yearbook. I think Valiant used yearbooks. So, things have changed a lot.
I know DC still is, and because I've been pulling Batman still, so they always pull the annuals for me, and those are a part of my read pile because I know they tie into the story, but they are separate still. And so I haven't jumped into some of those yet, but there is they do have some where they are, not as much annuals, but they put out some like just specials, which, not tell you whether it's Robin 80th or something.
Right. That's a one shot.
And, they did the New Year's Eve Evil this year. And that tied into the Year of the Villain stuff, but it also was still separate and contained. So, yeah. So, what else you got then?
Let's see. Let me see if I can switch it up. I did have a bunch of DC books. Normally, I'm a Marvel guy.
Yeah.
But there are so many good examples. So we'll go back to that. Can it launch an event, and is it still one shot?
Yeah.
One of the best Superman events ever. Emperor Joker.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, this is Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness is like one of my top Superman artists. He really kills everything he does. You're busting out the trade, right?
Boom.
Awesome. This is a phenomenal story. But it launches an event, and it's got still. Remember, obviously, anyone who collected Superman in the '90s, we got this little number up here, the Superman logo that tells you sequentially where in the story it is. But you need this. You need this to do the whole story. But it's a one-off. There was never an Emperor Joker #2. This is not an Alpha and Omega. This was it. And the story ran concurrently in all of the Superman titles. A rarity, I guess, for a one-shot too that incorporates several different creative teams. All the creative teams and artists specifically on this are awesome. Sometimes you miss, half the book's good and half the book not so much.
Man, I'll jump on that book real quick. Gang, if you have not read Emperor Joker,
awesome.
Check it out. I mean, you can get the trade easily, but it is I just read it this year because I was talking to Boop earlier. I got back into collecting just about a year and a half ago. So all my knowledge is like 90s as a kid reading. And so stuff I missed, like I've been going into my local comic shop and I'm like, all right, here's my time frame. What have I missed? Which is a lot, guys. If you take a break from reading from the 90s till about 2 years ago, you got a lot of catching up to do.
Dude, but these days, if you take a break for a year,
right? You miss like 4 events and you're playing catch up. So I got that. And it is, and I know I'm crossing genres, or not genres, worlds here a little bit, but it's it's like the closest thing I think you would get to if Joker had the Infinity Gauntlet.
Absolutely.
Like that is like, that's like the ultimate power that he has there is like, it was DC's version of, I mean, completely different, but just talking about the amount of power that he had, and it is buck wild of a story.
Yeah, reality bending. And I think there might be a little elephant in the room here, and I'm probably going to get called out by a lot of people. Joker's power in this event comes from stealing that fifth dimensional imp's power. Mixoplex?
I can't. I'm so bad at Mr. Yeah.
I know there's probably like, kind of shooting off a topic a little. Ra's al Ghul, as it was in the movies, or Ra's al Ghul, like Batman the Animated Series.
So I had a conversation, and I know I'm going to mix it up. One of it, they creator came out and actually said that they say it two different ways purposely.
Oh.
And that if you say it one way, you are a part of the League of Assassins, say it one way. Those not in the League say it another way. And again, I know I'm off slightly to it, but it's something to that effect is where I read. So again, if you guys are following along with us and you go, wait a second, and you guys have critiques or say, hey, I think it's this way, comment, let us know, because we're not stating facts here. We're just talking comics. And so
you guys, if you're in the League of Assassins, please clarify.
Yeah. Like if you are the League of Assassins and say you cannot say it this way, let us know, please.
Don't kill us, just educate us.
That's right.
You got anything else on deck?
I was just gonna show I had the only other stuff I had we kind of already talked about was the amalgam. Are those one-offs or one-shots?
One-shots, absolutely.
And I've posted this on my page before, but I collect the entire series, and if these are ones that if I see them, I'll snag them in a heartbeat. But I grew up with the Batman the Animated Series, so Kevin Conroy is my Batman. I'm gonna just say
he is the greatest Batman ever. And only recently did he actually get to play the live action Batman,
which
in
was
Crisis
so
crossover.
cool to see. I didn't really love the storyline that they did, but I was just glad that he got that moment.
He was evil. He was evil AF.
Yeah. Yes. But
I guess I don't know if you ever follow or watch any of the Bat in the Sun productions. They're on IG. They're kind of part of that greater IG comic family, and they do these really amazing live action. They call them superhero beatdowns, and they're filming a Kevin Conroy live action Batman movie right now. Like, he's full costume. They're looking for some crowdfunding right now, but it looks to be a pretty epic movie.
Dude, I'm in. I'm gonna have to look then. If I find it, I'll try and post a link then to some of that stuff down below so we can all look into that, because that sounds fantastic.
Absolutely. The costume is sick, and they're playing to his strengths. He's obviously an older Batman now, and I think they're going to do that. It's a detective story. It's a Batman versus Joker story, and it looks like it could be really sweet.
Some of those we're going down rabbit holes, but some of those fan videos are
absolutely.
I know you've seen the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger one that they did where
Jason David Frank.
Yes. Yeah. Like, man, it was almost like a Quentin Tarantino style looking trailer. Like, it just went hard, and it was really good. And props to you guys that have that ability and are putting out some of that content, because that's awesome.
Absolutely. The production quality, the actor talent, the costumes, the effects, like it's top notch, like something you would expect to see on a streaming service these days.
Right. And I love it. And here we are talking comics in our poorly lit basement. And these people are busting out high def stuff.
I got a couple more. I actually got a couple of books that I picked up purely for spec purposes.
Okay.
I like the character, but hopefully the glare won't be too big. We got a couple of Black Knight one-shots.
That's what's up.
We got
talk to me about Black Knight, because I picked up a book from one of our fellow comic collectives in one of his auctions, but I don't know very much about Black Knight, so school me a little bit real quick.
The schooling will be very basic at best.
Good.
Sir Dane Whitman is not the first Black Knight. I believe the first guy's name was Percy. I actually, his origin is in this, Sir
nice.
Percy. So, we're going back to medieval times, like King Arthur, Camelot, Knights of the Round Table. I am definitely going to give a very broad overview of this. Cursed with this powerful sword, the ebony blade. He can't ever give it up, or gives up his soul, something like that. And again, IG comic fam, anyone watching this, feel free to school us in the comments, because I'm probably messing it up. But Dane Whitman, huge part of the late 80s, early 90s Avengers. Like, he was a leader. He rocked that badass leather jacket because all the Avengers were doing leather jackets in the 90s, and because that's just, it was the 90s. Thunderstrike had this crazy leather vest. It was just a thing. And here's the cool one where, the guy's been around since King Arthur times, so he's obviously traveled through time, met many heroes and villains, many of whom are immortal. So this, he throws down with Apocalypse. Like the Black Knight up against Apocalypse, and again, sorry for the glare. It's, you wouldn't think to put these two together, but this was, let's see, we got a date on this. It's the 90s sometime. Another reason I grabbed this, a great dollar bin find, jumped on because of the speculation, might heat up, but Jim Cheung, huge Marvel artist, has done some great event series. Most people probably know him from Young Avengers. He brought the Young Avengers to the page for the first time, but this was one of his first early works at Marvel. He actually, I think, was coming off the trails of penciling the Maverick 12-issue series, which, it didn't sell very well. It only ran for 12 issues, but find it in dollar bin. It's a great read. I even posted issue 1 on Instagram, and Jim actually commented on it. He goes, wow, like, I'm embarrassed that you put this up. So it's, not all artists are proud of their early stuff, but it's fun, especially for fans.
Yeah.
But great art in this, fun story, especially if you're an X-Men fan. Apocalypse has been around for a long time, and it's cool to see those tie together.
But how cool is that, though, that he jumped in and commented? Like, as a fan, like, that's when comic creators, like, we just talked last, I posted my Robin book last night, and Tom jumped on and commented, like, let's go. Like, I was like, man, that felt so cool. Like, man, so when comic creators, whether writers, inkers, and they reach out to the fans and communicate like that, that's such a cool thing. So awesome. I just love that. So I jumped in when you said that. I was like, that's so cool. Even if he's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because he's acknowledging it. They're into it. They're all fans too. So they're psyched. Just like, it's like showing a middle school picture almost, with the laser background, like, I can't believe that.
But we all were like, oh, we all have those middle school pictures with the mullet and the.
Let's see. I think I only got a couple. I saved some of the best for last. My personal favorites, like indisputably, Oneshots. It's by an artist who these days, modern days, hit or miss. I've seen some recent conversations. John Romita Jr. Obviously schooled by his father, John Romita, one of the greatest Silver Age artists ever. Made Spider-Man who he was as far as art on the page back in the day. Junior has his own style. Personally, one of my favorite Spider-Man artists, but styles evolve. Things look a little different these days. Like, is it Superman Year One is the current series he's on?
So he's on Action Comics right now, I believe.
Okay, so he did do Superman Year One.
Yes, he did do Superman Year One with Frank Miller, right?
Yes, and I don't think the art is there. I don't think the quality of the art is there. Not to where he was.
See, I liked the art on there. I thought it got to, for me, and I hate, because art is such it's interpretation, right? It's all speculative of like what someone loves, and so like I'm like, I hate to be like, oh, I hate this art or I don't like this, but like it wasn't clicking for me when it was Action Comics, so I actually had to stop for a little bit just because I'm like, art pulls you in, and so if it doesn't click with you, it just doesn't click, and that's no knock on him in any way.
No, he's talented. He's good at what he does.
It just wasn't mine. So
it didn't feel right. It didn't look right to me.
Yeah.
Like, I love the old, I'll call it boxy, John Romita Jr. art.
Okay. Yep.
And well highlighted in this.
There we go.
Punisher, ghostwriter.
What?
This Hearts of Darkness. They team up and they fight Mephisto's son, Blackheart. This is just a sick crossover. I actually have a poster of all three of them. Not this cover. It was an original piece of art done for the poster by Romita Jr. And it's got like, I'm gonna like put it on a table and pour like polypropylene on it, and it's gonna be like my comic room table. Just a really cool logo design on the inside cover he did. You know, all three characters incorporated. It's just, I mean, again, another 90s thing. You know, I think one-shots really came to life in the 90s. And this is like every like angry teens, you know, I want to see all the badasses, you know, teaming up and, you know, laying waste to some other, you know, big bad. I mean, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and the Punisher, that was angry 90s anti-hero vigilantes right there.
Right. That was a wheelhouse for any teenagers. Just like, this is what, that's why they did, how many Wolverine series are we on, like volume 8 now or something?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, and I feel like they're like, let's just do another Wolverine series. We can get new number 1. And
because it sells.
It does. He does. And Wolverine.
There's been ups and downs as far as quality goes. You know, I've been out of Wolverine for so long. Like I know about the red hot claws. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. He's got a daughter now. I don't know if they know each other or what's going on. I see Adam Kubert's posts doing, you know, some really sick pencils, fighting Sabretooth. I didn't know Sabretooth was alive again because he died a while ago, I think.
I mean, it's comic world, baby. Everyone's alive in some way or another.
And let's piggyback the art conversation.
Yeah, let's go for it.
It's not always our thing. You know, the artist may be talented, maybe his or her interpretation of the character. So we had a brief exchange about Ninja Turtles and the adaptation of Turtles 2, the comic adaptation. The art just wasn't there. You know, it obviously was good enough to sell a comic, certainly better than I could do ever. Funny enough, Jim Lawson, the guy that drew that book, also did the art for the first adaptation. Oh. This is not the copy that I was telling you about, not the one I've read 100 times. This is the prestige format one.
Okay.
But Lawson also did the art in this book. So why is it so different? Well, that's easy. And I looked inside. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Layouts by Kevin Eastman. Oh. So that's why. The man that created the Turtles did the layout. So he laid the groundwork. That's why it looks so different. And, you know, this is something that I don't think is talked about a lot. You know, it's not pencilers and inkers. It's, you know, the layouts versus the fine pencils. That can really set the groundwork for how that book is going to look. And it can change it dramatically, such in this case with 2 movie adaptations.
Well, and to know how to, because layouts change so much, that to know how to read it, what to, you know, because you could be reading it across the pages thinking that's how you're supposed to do it on a layout or something, and be like, I just spoiled something.
Yep.
So layouts are key. Man, that pains me though to see that. I was about to go to a con this weekend and see Kevin Eastman, and that's canceled right now.
They got to be as hungry as us to get out though. That they got to be coming back. I feel.
Yep. Oh yeah.
When, you know, and I'll be optimistic, when everything gets rectified, I think the con circuit is going to blow up.
Oh, I hope so. Because I know we got a handful of guys and girls from our crew that were going cons this month and next, and so we'll be
absolutely a couple down south there. There was one in Alabama. I know a bunch of the crew was looking to go to, and that's obviously off the board now.
Right.
And you know what? This is actually let me pop this back out. It's a movie adaptation. Is this one shot? Does this qualify? It's an adaptation of a piece of film, but you know, there's no 2-part series. It's all told inside this one book. One shot?
To go with what we've said, I mean, it's not a Marvel book, which if you did a Marvel movie adaptation, I would say probably not, because those are so interwoven nowadays but man, a good movie adaptation book is so good. But
absolutely. In fact, I believe you were mentioning recently you have all the Batman ones, right? I
do. So I have all the and I have a couple that were reader copies that I still keep from mine. But then if I see them, I bought up some better condition. Nice. Because for some reason, no one wanted a comic book of Batman and Robin for more than $1. So
it's, you know, hey, if it hits your wheelhouse for stuff,
that's right.
That's awesome. Let's see. I think I have. I just got a couple more examples. If you're cool with me, keep going.
Go for it. Yeah.
All right. So
listen, I'm enjoying this. So if people aren't enjoying it, they'll just shut off the video.
Absolutely.
And we can still drink our beer and talk comics. So I'm good.
Excellent. All right. So I mentioned what if, you know, you were talking about, you know, stuff in a sequential series, you know. So what if changed its format after the original series ended? The last issue I remember, which was awesome, it was like, what if Secret Wars, and what if they stayed on Battle World and they all had kids? It was fantastic. So after that, what ifs came out in like groups of 5, all self-contained. It doesn't mention it anywhere on here, but it's just a one and done. What if Planet Hulk, and it's kind of like a minor key. It's the first appearance of Scar, the Hulk's son, in a fictional story. Yeah. Then he wove himself into the greater Marvel universe. So this is just, you know, it's a what if. There are many other what ifs, but this is the only what if Planet Hulk, and it's got the number 1 on it. So one shot.
I think it goes back to kind of what we talked about. You know, the amalgam. It's in the same world. It's in the same series, but you know, for me, for a one shot, it's self-contained, and it can have sprinkles of, you know, but you've got to. It's something you can pick up and read and go, okay, I know what's going on.
Absolutely.
It doesn't hinge on the other story, but all it does, it could enhance. It could enhance another series, but it doesn't hinge on it for that.
Correct. Absolutely the case. And here's one, and I think this is the only one that I pulled out. 1, because it's an awesomely ridiculous book. 2, it's like one of the newest hotkeys that no one has. This is Hit Monkey. He's a crazy assassin.
Okay.
He's a monkey with guns. That's it. Women love him. Deadpool hates him. This is his first appearance. He's going to be coming, I believe, to Hulu in his own animated series, and this book has gone nuclear. It's crazy.
Old. And this is where, like I said, the comic noob in me is like, never once heard of Hit Monkey, and you sold me on. It's a book about a monkey who shoots guns.
Yep.
Okay, I'd watch that. I'd read it. I'd watch it. I'm in.
It was part of a bigger collection I got. I didn't even realize I had it until like last year when I heard the announcement, because I was just shuffling through things.
Yeah.
I like to sell stuff in groups, you know, let me offer up all my Spider-Man books and then X-Men, and all of a sudden here's this, you know, dual pistol welding monkey in the back of the box by himself. What is this? I think I read something recently, and wow, the new hot key. And so I was able to grab his second and third appearance. It was a Spider-Man Deadpool team up to fight Hit Monkey in the Deadpool Volume 2 that was written by Daniel Way. So just found him in a like 25-cent bin, just because it's, you know, it's nice, you know. And I'll have to give props to the Key Collector app. Like, the guy has designed a brilliant app for collectors. You know, it's made the market a little bit different, because people who are only in it for specs and business, I get it, you know, because that's your business, makes stuff a little more hard to acquire. But for people digging for treasure, someone who just wants that book and your site, you know, back in the day it would be like pulling that Amazing Fantasy 15, you know, out of a tag sale, like, whoa. But now you can educate yourself on what's hot and, you know, get a hold of it to just spice up your own collection.
I mean, you might get a little bit of slack now from the community comparing Hit Monkey to. I mean, I'm just saying.
It was a time reference, you know. It was, you know, what's that hot book back in the day before there was a frame of reference, before people were maybe a little more educated. But yeah, you know, bash me away. They're nowhere even close to the same thing.
As someone who's, like I said, I got back into collecting a year and a half ago. It has been a great friend for me when I'm looking at half-price bookstores and stuff, and just saying like what would be, because like there's stuff that I always, because I stopped reading comics for about 10 years of my life, and call those the dark days. But you know, like, there's stuff when you remember comics, you remember books from the 90s, and you're like, oh, do I remember this cover because it was actually an important book, or just because it has sentimental value? And either one's great, but it has been nice getting out there to dig and look for some stuff like that. So speaking of which, real quick, you said you like to sell books in groups. Are you still doing you have your own handle for your online store and stuff, so right?
Absolutely, yes. I appreciate you bringing that up. Sales are on hiatus for the moment.
Right.
I can't risk my family's health. I certainly don't want to risk anyone else's health taking a trip to the post office, whatever. And you know what? Maybe I'm being super paranoid. If I am being super paranoid, I will never be so thrilled for someone to tell me I'm wrong in a couple of months' time, saying you were just crazy, man. But we'll do that a couple of months down the road.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just trying to make it. And yeah, I brought that up because you said you like to sell books in groups, and I know I've gotten a couple from you, which have been great. You, I think our very first early interaction, you sent me, I bought your lot of Daredevil, the Mark Waid run.
The Wade Samney series, their first volume on it.
Yes, and it's so good. And I just picked up the Kevin Smith Green Arrow from you. So also put a link to your shop in below. People know sales are paused right now, but that way they're aware if they're watching this video, because you give some great deals. And if you're just looking for some collections that you're like, oh, I've never read this series, and you want them, that's it.
Yeah, I love to move them in big lots. I know comics, we all know comics are not cheap.
Right.
At what, $4 for a new issue these days? Most of the stuff I'm selling is probably $1 a piece, maybe even less, for big runs, maybe a buck and a quarter. Check out So Many Comics, so_many_comics, COMIX. If you're interested in something and you don't like my price, hit me up. I'd like to just get them out of my house so I have more room to actually do house things. And
I think your family would appreciate that too.
Because the house isn't my comic room. As much as I would like to think it is, it's not. And, my wife and children have reminded me of that. So, I need to make some space for them. And, I've got 2 colleges to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah. So get those books, gang.
I got one I think might be good to wrap things up.
Let's do it. Let's hit us with
It was picked with you in mind. It was picked because we've talked a lot about 90s comics, a time that was very special for you. Mm-hmm. That's when I really got into it. I remember some of those books that I bought, like that started my collection. This was kind of one of the big ones. Let's see, I'm going to not risk any glare because it's far too awesome. Call it cheesy, call it ridiculous, call it a money grab.
Oh, let's go. Yes.
Batman Spawn. It's Frank Miller, Todd McFarlane, 2 of the greatest comic book characters ever. I mean, Spawn is seeing like a resurrection now. Like ever since that book hit 300, like people love Spawn again. Todd McFarlane is back in a force. He recently posted that sick picture online where he drew Spawn and Spidey in the same picture together. And this was just like amazing. It's a solid story. And because of the shipping schedule at Spawn, this story kind of messed people up. And I don't know if you remember, we'll show everyone. There was an issue of Spawn, and it had to do with, I think, issues 17 and 18. Again, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong.
I think I know.
Spawn had a shoelace up in the middle of his face because he got battle damaged and something happened. So the final panel of this book, Batman just lands Batarang right in the middle of his face. And everyone thought that's what it was. But this is a non-continuity story. This essentially never happened. It was just for fans. So due to the shipping schedule, this book came out before that story was actually explained. Like Spawn went back in time and he teamed up with a young Harry Houdini, and that's something in that story. I read it so long ago, I don't even remember what happened. But it had to do with this new guy that was on art and I think the image publishing schedule. This new guy, I don't know if he ever made it. Greg Capullo, he was doing the pencils back then. So I don't know whatever happened to him.
I wish him the best. I hope he did well.
Absolutely.
Right. Dude is hilarious. I met him at a con, and he also is bald and rocks the facial hair.
And he lifts too. He's got massive arms.
I was like, hey, this was in November, so this was way before any of this, like, because I hey, let's not touch and do things because of all. He grabbed my head, slammed it next to his head, and was like, look, if you put our heads together, it looks like a butt. And
That's awesome.
I was just like, man, dude, that's what's up. Yeah, no, Greg's cracks me up, man.
Very cool.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. There's another Spawn Batman crossover done by a different creative team too, right?
Yes, that was the DC side.
Okay.
I believe, and I'm probably going to butcher them. I've messed up so many creators' names. Doug Monek.
I think you're right. I think you say that, it sounds correct. Yeah.
He did Devil's something or other. That was the DC side of it.
Okay.
Quick one off about mispronouncing creators' names. I went to New York Comic Con when I was 14 years old, my first ever con, and I asked one of the people with the lanyards, "Hey, where is Joe Quesadilla, and where can I get his autograph?" And, "Oh, that's Joe Quesada." So that's how I learned that I maybe need to read a little more.
Here's the
before
deal.
just trying to pronounce someone's name.
If Joe Quesadilla ever comes and watches this video, or any other creator, feel free to comment in the below
Please.
and say we butchered your names, and
Absolutely.
I will make it up to you somehow. But
I never even got to meet you.
So
I promise you I'll pronounce your name correctly, and I will bring all my old school Ash comics from your short-lived event company, because those were awesome. You and Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy, I love his stuff too. Man, so much good. So, I think that's gonna wrap up our conversation about one-off, one-shots, annuals. We went all across the board, and I think that's okay because we like to talk pop culture, comics.
It's comics. That's what happens.
That's what, because it ties together with so much. So, man, if you guys have made it through this so far in this video, because it's fun. We're like, oh, yeah, we'll just do like a 15-minute video. I haven't looked at time, but it's definitely not 15 minutes.
I think, is it Monday now?
I think so. I think quarantine has just completely thrown me off my schedule. So, but if you enjoyed this video, comment, like, subscribe. I'll put tags to all the stuff we talked about. Moose Shop, the So Many Comics. We'll look for some of those fan video links and all that jazz that we've talked about. But also feel free to jump in the comments, talk to us about some of the things we talked about, share your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to hear from it. We'll get to it when we can in the midst of all this stuff that's going on. Also, maybe leave some other comments below. What should we talk about?
Do you want to see us do this again? And
if you don't want to see us do this again, we'll still do it, and it'll just be out there for the internet world to watch. But
yeah, maybe it'll be better, or we'll make sure to block you or something, or
who knows. So, but yeah, let us know. There's so many topics we could talk about. Comic book, underrated comic book movies. Being both 90s comic fans, there's so many of those. There's so many different things about comics. So give us some ideas. But we would love to keep these craft and comic conversations going, because it's beer and it's comics. Who doesn't like that?
Right, absolutely. And everyone, make sure to subscribe to Bearded Comic Bros YouTube channel. He posts some great videos, does his favorite picks of the month, runs down all the hot books, tells you why you should be reading them, why they're quality books, because we all know comics are not cheap. This makes sure that your comic book money is wisely invested so you get something good out of it, because nothing is worse than sinking like $5 into what you think is going to be a hot new issue, and all of a sudden it's not.
So let me sink my money into a book and tell you if it's bad or not.
Absolutely. The best way to spend money is to spend other people's money.
That's right. So, well, that's going to wrap it up for comics and craft and comics conversation here. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We love to talk to you guys on. And yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Also, make mine Marvel.